Big box, little box. Big box, little box. There's no prizes here for guessing which one of these two is the CSL DD boost kit, and that's literally all it is, an alternative, more powerful, chunkier supply. And let's not beat around the bush here, this block is going to set you back just shy of €150. We have already established in our full Fanatec CSL DD wheelbase review that you don't need the boost kit for this new wheel to send its mid-range rivals packing. The question is, do you want it? Is it really worth that extra 130 odd quid that could go on a fancy new rim or towards a 1-month iRacing subscription? Oh, okay, maybe a couple of months. Or a car or two. Sorry, iRacing. As you will probably already have established, I'm going to try and answer that question for you, and I think I know what the answer is going to be. To really understand how the boost kit influences the experience, we first need to look at the regular power supply. To give you some context, this regular power supply provides a peak torque of 5 Nm, whilst this boost kit provides peak torque of 8 Nm, and that's not an additional 8 Nm, that's 8 Nm in total. This still sounds pretty low when you consider that the Fanatec Podium DD1 and DD2 bases produce 20 and 25 Nm respectively. Now, could you imagine the size of that power supply? Actually, you don't really need to, because I've got one here, and yeah. Oh, it's a little bit bigger than the other two. It's quite good for a visual demonstration, that. So anyway, with the smallest regular 5 Nm power supply plugged into the CSL DD, you still have an incredible technical achievement in your hands. As I discussed in the full wheelbase review, the smoothness, cleanliness and fidelity of this wheel is second to none. You get all of the positive characteristics you would expect from direct drive when it comes to the resolution and detail, yet none of the negative characteristics you would expect from belt or gear-driven alternatives such as heat buildup and mechanical damping. If this was a game of wheelbase top trumps, the only stat you would have to worry about would actually be the peak torque against its rivals in terms of price. The CSL Elite wheel, which this wheel is replacing, produced 6 Nm at peak torque, which is obviously one more than the regular power supply here, and many of the Thrustmaster alternatives at a similar price point also produce a similar amount of power. Having top of the range detail and fidelity with mid-range power inevitably does have consequences. Even though you know the feeling is there in the force feedback, sometimes it can be hard to fully detect. Curbs, for example, don't give you a jarring shake that keeps you on your toes when you run over them. The impact and shake is there, but it feels like you have to go looking for it. Now, to be fair, this does differ from game to game, and we will cover that later, but it didn't quite grab my attention in the way you might expect. When cornering normally, you begin to notice a lack of weight right at the limits of adhesion. In a high downforce car around a circuit with plenty of medium speed corners, for example, as the wheel is put through its paces, you will likely miss out on some of the more detailed force feedback signals that many sims are capable of providing. So even though the detail is incredible during lower intensity situations, it can just go missing right at the limits of grip mid-corner. What this means is you don't always know exactly what the car is doing underneath you. When are the tyres going to run out of bite? And am I seconds away from a snap of oversteer? All of this is why, in theory, the boost kit should be a tangible improvement to the experience. Its sole purpose is to increase the peak torque, and therefore give the base more power in order to exploit that detail that's already present. It changes the one area of the base that would actually benefit from a change, so the question is, does the theory translate into reality? So let's see then how the boost kit actually feels when we get out on circuit. So we're out of the pits here at Sebring. I'm going to be trying the full boost kit with 100% of the power available. So this is 100% on the profiler, it's also 100% in-game as well. So it's just exactly as it was intended out of the box, this is how it's going to feel. Now my instant thoughts are, okay, you can really feel the weight straight away in the middle of the wheel as well. You don't need to add some sort of minimum force or anything to be able to feel like the wheel's actually doing something. Straight away over the curbs as well, I've got the rumble. I'm not sure if you can hear that or not, but it's very, very clear. It's very precise as well. You can feel exactly what the car's doing as you go over the curbs. I can feel every bump in the road here at Sebring, which is a very bumpy circuit, so it's quite a good test for it, really. Of course, the real test for this boost kit is going to be when you really get up to speed. So once you've done a lot of practice and you're flying around, is how does the wheel actually perform in terms of feedback when you're right at the edges of the grip you've got available. And that would obviously take a little bit of time to do, but initially, this is going to help you get there quickly, because honestly, it gives you so much straight away. I'm completely connected to the road. I can feel exactly what the tyres are doing, I can feel all the bumps, and I'm not lost with this car at all. I know exactly where it's going to be, what it's going to do, I know it's going to listen to me. And that's the most a wheel can do right out of the box, you know? Okay, we're going to charge into turn 1, which is always a very good test for force feedback on a wheel because you're so quick through there. Okay, ignore that one. Upend it. When you're using the regular power supply, you tend to get a little bit lost in the middle of the corner. Like sometimes when you're right on the edge, oh, those bumps are absolutely fantastic. When you're right on the edge, you kind of feel like you just lose track of what everything's doing, and you almost tense up and brace for a spin that's about to happen, because you just don't quite know if the grip's going to remain with you or if you're about to lose it. Whereas with this boost kit so far, you don't get any of that. You know that you're still fully with the grip. You know, as soon as you push a little bit too hard and start sliding, you actually can tell straight away. You can basically, you know, preempt it. Whereas beforehand, I was kind of guessing when I was going to be losing that grip. So that's a big difference straight away. The other thing I've got to say is this is a huge amount of fun. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, this is just making the car come alive. And it's so enjoyable to actually drive and push. When you start sliding, you can bring it back round really quickly. When you're braking for the corner, you can feel the weight of the car just shifting from one side to the other. Every bump sending signals through the wheel. I could sit here all day and do this. I started off with a sim that has recently updated its force feedback system, Race Room Racing Experience. This title caters for rookie racers whilst also accommodating experienced players and top-level esports events, a perfect middle ground test. I started off using the regular 5Nm supply, and in all honesty, I was slightly underwhelmed. Having used the boost kit for the ADAC esports event previously, I really did notice a lack of feeling. I guess I would describe it as dainty. You could feel the texture of the curbs and the bumps, but despite its crisp nature, it was too light for my liking. I then fired up the boost kit and instantly I felt more connected to the road. My potential lap times were actually the same with both setups, but the actual lap time I achieved was 0.2 quicker with the boost kit, only 1/10 off of my potential time. Next up, I tried something very different, Dirt Rally 2.0. I started with the boost kit, and at 100% power it was actually too high. I found it tough to wrestle the car through the faster sections, and the immediacy of the feedback was actually resulting in a treacherous driving experience. On this occasion, I felt like my co-driver wasn't the only passenger. With the regular power supply, I felt more in control of the experience, with enough power to keep me on the straight and narrow, but not so much that I was being dragged along for the ride. I matched my times during every sector of the stage to the nearest half second, except for the high speed section, where I actually gained a whopping 3 seconds. Turning down the power of the boost kit is of course an easy option as well, but the point I'm making is that on this occasion, you could arguably get just as much out of the game without those 8Nm. Assetto Corsa Competizione, probably the game I play most at the moment. Starting on 5Nm, I once again found the detailing impressive during more delicate situations, such as curb strikes and bumps. Actually, the feedback over the bumps in particular was mind-blowingly impressive. But the mid-corner feeling wasn't quite there on the limits. I felt a little lost right in the middle of the corners and didn't know exactly how my tyres were coping under heavy load. Boost kit plugged in, and similarly to Race Room, I really did notice a sizable difference. Everything was amplified, meaning that mid-corner uncertainty was no longer an issue. Curbs and bumps became so well portrayed that I actually wanted to turn them down again slightly. My first lap was 200ths quicker than my fastest with 5Nm, and the next lap a further 10th quicker again. ACC was the most visible example so far of the benefits of the boost kit, although that probably did have something to do with the fact that I'm more in tune with ACC than other titles at the moment. This means I'm closer to the absolute limits of the sim, and therefore the extra confidence and detail will have a larger impact on the outcome. I wanted to try a single-seater, so I fired up iRacing next and jumped in the Dallara IR01 around Lime Rock. So I went with the flowing Okayama instead. With the boost kit plugged in first, everything felt perfect straight out of the box at 100% strength. Great feedback, confidence inspiring, and an instant connection with the tyres and the road. Back on the regular power supply, I found myself making more mini corrections with the steering. I just didn't trust the car as much underneath me, and I could tell I was tensing up more through the faster corners, as I would be clenching the wheel as I hit the straight. When you are flirting with the limits of grip, if the wheel doesn't reassure you with the weight and feedback, you effectively start bracing for a loss of traction. A bit like braking on an icy road or cornering in the wet. The fact is though, you still technically have just as much grip as before, so even though I was more tense and less confident, I actually set a comfortably faster lap time as I was still finding more pace in the car and track combo. Last up, R Factor 2. I started with the 5Nm box, and honestly, after the first few laps, I actually checked to see if I'd accidentally left the boost kit in. The feedback was brilliant, heavier than the other titles I'd tried on 100%, and the detail was fully noticeable. In my opinion, RF2 was the title that extracted the most from the regular power supply. Perhaps unsurprisingly then, using the boost kit felt like overkill. I did manage to go straight out and match the lap time, but after that, turned the force feedback multiplier down to a point that was fairly close to the regular supply. This was the first time I genuinely enjoyed the out-of-the-box experience more on the regular power supply than with the boost kit, and both gave me equal levels of confidence. So what did I learn from all of this? Well, you won't be faster with the boost kit, but you will be faster with the boost kit. Confused? What I mean is that the ceiling of performance is the same no matter which power supply you have. I was every bit as fast over one flying lap with 5 Nm as I was with 8 Nm. But this is logical because the sims don't change, the car's capabilities don't change, so you can drive them at the same speed. The reason I'm saying you will be faster with the boost kit is because over a race distance, having that extra confidence and knowledge of what the car and tyres are doing underneath you will help you drive at your limits on a more consistent basis. It will also help in racing situations when you're using different braking points and taking different lines. In these scenarios where you aren't relying on muscle memory and rhythm, those extra Newton meters will give you more awareness of the limits of grip, allowing you to push the boundaries with confidence. The closer you are to the limits of the car, the more important this difference becomes, and that leads me nicely onto my conclusion. Is the boost kit worth it? The answer depends on what you want from your sim racing experience, and how close you are getting to the limits of the car. If you're an aspiring esports racer looking to make the upgrade to direct drive and take on the top drivers, then you are definitely going to want the boost kit. It will help your consistency and overall race pace. If you aren't an aspiring esports racer and just want to have fun with your mates on nice racing games using a nice racing wheel, then the boost kit is probably a little bit of overkill. It's a lot of money to spend for something that's not really going to totally change your experience. You will still love the experience with 5 Nm, and at the end of the day, if you're left wanting more in the future, you can always get yourself the boost kit further down the line. And that's the beauty of this. You have an upgrade path that you can follow in your own time. That concludes our review of the CSL DD boost kit. Are you guys looking forward to giving it a go? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. Subscribe to the Traxion channel if you want to catch more reviews just like this one, and of course hit the notification bell if you want to see our latest videos as they are released. Until I see you next time, keep it pinned, thanks for watching and have a great day.